Have you ever felt really loyal to your job, like truly dedicated, and then wondered, what if something goes wrong? What happens when that loyalty gets tested, when you're really vulnerable? Imagine a company that talks about being like a family. What if that image just shatters when an employee actually needs help? Today, we're diving into a story that really highlights that exact contrast.
Yeah, this deep dive looks into one family's really tough experience with a big grocery chain, King Kullen. The details we have are, well, they're very personal. It's an account from the employee's spouse, and she's actually an HR professional herself. And it's not just her story; it's backed up by, official documents, paid family leave letters, workers' comp files, things like that. So our goal here is to really unpack this whole situation, understand what exactly happened, maybe see what larger issues are at play, and get a sense of the real human costs when things like this happen. We'll look at the company's policies on paper versus what allegedly happened in practice.
And ultimately, think about what this means for you, the listener, when it comes to things like workplace rights and, well, corporate accountability. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Joseph Crivero. Our sources say he gave nearly 20 years to King Kullen. His commitment sounds, frankly, extraordinary. We're talking sacrificing basically every weekend, most holidays, often just one day off a week. And get this, commuting over 30 miles each way, even when jobs opened up closer to home. Plus, during COVID, he apparently clocked something like 15 weeks of overtime.
Wow. That level of dedication, it really sets the stage, doesn't it? It's the foundation. It kind of builds this expectation, maybe unspoken, that such long-term loyalty should mean something, should guarantee some kind of support in return. But this case seems to push right up against that assumption. It makes you ask, what happens when that personal commitment runs into, well, a system? A system where maybe legal frameworks or financial concerns take over.
Right. So the injury itself, May 29th, 2024. Joseph's a meat manager. He starts feeling severe back pain while he's moving heavy boxes of meat, like 40, even 80 pounds. He tries to keep working, but the pain just gets worse. Eventually, he has to go home.
And the company's immediate reaction, according to the sources, it sounds incredibly stark. Instead of support, the family alleges Joseph got, and I'm quoting here, no paycheck, no medical care, and instead faced what they call retaliation, surveillance, and a lawsuit. So denying benefits, refusing medical help, leaving him in serious pain for over a year with no income.
It's like a switch flipped from loyal employee to adversary. That seems to be the claim. And then there's the company's supposed investigation. This part is, well, it's something else. The sources claim King Kullen hired PIs, private investigators, to basically watch Joseph, sending people to just sit outside his house for days on end. And their big evidence, apparently it included a professionally edited video of him dancing, but it was from before the injury. And I mean, this is incredible. They apparently even asked about his wife's weight during a formal hearing. Plus, pictures of workers they hired to hang Christmas lights, trying to suggest he did the work.
That really makes you question the whole idea of evidence in these kinds of disputes, right? And how far a company might go. The sources also say witnesses were interviewed, but like 3 of them weren't even in the same building when he got hurt. And nobody who was actually with him when the injury happened. And their lawyer apparently took this joke. Joseph made something about needing a vacation from his vacation because of yard work and tried to spin it, tried to make it sound like he admitted injuring himself doing yard work. But the source makes a good point. You could be sore from yard work one week and still genuinely injure your back lifting heavy boxes at work the next week. Both can be true. It highlights how, things can be twisted.
And the legal fight sounds just exhausting. King Kullen allegedly dragged the workers' comp case out for months. Big gaps between hearings. They even, reportedly, asked for a delay specifically to get through the holidays. While Joseph and his family were apparently facing, potential financial ruin.
Yeah, that dragging out process, it feels like a classic pressure tactic. Using the system itself as a weapon. The sources claim that even after Joseph won his case initially, King Kullen appealed. And apparently, they didn't even introduce new evidence, just appealed, which, as alleged, deliberately pushed back any payment or health care access for another, 9 to 12 months. It really shows how the system, which is supposed to protect workers, can sometimes be manipulated, used almost like a tool of attrition against someone with fewer resources.
Okay, let's talk about the medical side. His doctors, a chiropractor, Paul Priolo, and a physician, Harold Vela, what did they find? They diagnosed him with a lumbar nerve root injury, myospasm, ligament laxity. Pretty serious stuff. Both doctors said he was totally disabled, couldn't work.
And yet what's really striking is the pattern of denying medical treatment consistently. The workers' comp files apparently show multiple requests prior authorization request, or PARs, for basic things like an MRI, which seems crucial, right?
Absolutely.
And also for chiropractic care, manipulation, massage, electrical stimulation, plus physical therapy, all denied. And the reason given again and again was claim currently controverted. So basically because the insurance company, Travelers in this case under Charter Oak Fire Inzico, was still fighting the claim, they just blocked all the necessary medical care. Even diagnostics like that MRI for suspected herniated discs in a hernia. It's like,
So what does that actually mean for the person, for Joseph?
Well, imagine living with that kind of severe pain for over a year, knowing there are tests like an MRI that could maybe pinpoint the exact issue and treatments that could help, but you're just denied access systematically because of a paperwork battle. It's not just a legal thing at that point. It's a daily physical and mental struggle. Even with clear medical opinions saying total temporary disability and linking it to the job, the system, as alleged here, could still block essential care.
And apparently this wasn't the first time Joseph had issues with King Kullen regarding time off or, well, alleged pushback. We need to rewind about a year before the back injury to 2023. He needed time off then, too, for a really serious family situation. His spouse shattered her ankle, like in 3 places, and then got diagnosed with CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome.
Oh, CRPS is incredibly painful and debilitating. That absolutely requires significant caregiving.
Exactly. So he needed leave.
Which brings up the whole issue of legally protected leave, like PFL and FMLA. How did the company handle that? Well, the sources claim King Kullen really dropped the ball. They allegedly failed to properly process his paid family leave, PFL and Family Medical Leave Act, FMLA requests, apparently finishing the paperwork months after his wife's surgery. There's a PFL letter from Lincoln Life and Annuity confirming his leave was approved from late May to late September 2023, closing on September 29th. But the spouse says even though they submitted it in June, it wasn't actually processed until September. That's a huge delay.
Wow. And it didn't stop there, did it? King Kullen allegedly disciplined him multiple times, wrote him up for excessive absences, even during his approved leave and right after it supposedly ended. This was even though he apparently still had leave time available and the absences were protected by law. They even reportedly created new rules just for him about how to call out and then suspended him without pay for calling out sick with the flu, costing him around $1,000.
That's a critical point. The sources allege that King Kullen's own HR rep basically admitted under oath during the workers' comp case that they retaliated, that they were planning another disciplinary action against him. And this HR rep apparently said sick days were, quote, not a leave. It's your sick time. It's separate. Which Joseph's spouse, the HR professional, calls complete incompetence regarding New York's paid sick leave law.
Right.
It really suggests a fundamental misunderstanding, or maybe disregard, of their obligations around protected leave. And then there's the detail that this HR rep, Jenna, investigated him secretly on his day off. Apparently admitted under oath Joseph had no clue he was even being investigated. It paints a pretty concerning picture of their internal practices.
So fast forward again. After this year of alleged medical denials, legal appeals, what happens? Joseph gets a formal notice. Pre-termination. It arrived May 24th, 2025, but it was dated May 16th. It basically said you have 1 week to return to work or you're fired. And the timing. That termination date lined up exactly with the day his union protection under workers' comp expired. 1 year to the day after his injury.
The timing is just impossible to ignore, isn't it? Postmarked just a day after the injury anniversary, arriving before the termination date itself.
Yeah.
It looks, as the spouse put it, like a textbook CYA move. Cover your assets.
Right.
Documenting compliance, making it look like they followed procedure, gave warning. But, as the spouse alleges, it was calculated. They knew he couldn't possibly return without the medical treatment they'd allegedly been denying him. And notably, the letter apparently included zero information about what happens to his benefits or about unemployment options, just the terminate.
So the impact. What did all this mean for Joseph, for his family? The sources describe just a devastating ripple effect. It wasn't just Joseph who suffered. His spouse's credit score took a massive hit. Her own business stalled, had to let contractors go, couldn't reinvest anything. Her own health suffered from the stress, the exhaustion, the constant fear of losing their home, losing everything. Forget vacations or celebrations. Peace of mind was gone.
It really underscores the immense human cost, doesn't it? It goes so far beyond just the injured worker. They racked up thousands in legal fees. Joseph ended up with a 50% disability rating, even though, practically speaking, he was 100% unable to earn money at that point. That discrepancy came because apparently 1 doctor out of 3 suggested he could do light-duty work.
Ah.
But King Kullen never actually offered him a light-duty position. So the sources say the family ended up dealing with debt collectors, overdraft fees. The spouse's words were stark. King Kullen quite literally bankrupted us. It shows how these situations, especially when they seem mishandled, can just financially and emotionally decimate an entire family. It's a societal cost, really.
And Joseph's spouse, the HR professional, her perspective is shaped by her own field. She sees this as bigger than just one company being bad. She said, this is about a system built to break people, a system that assumes the employee is guilty until proven innocent. Which is kind of ironic, given her job is advising companies on how not to end up in situations like this.
And she also suggested there might be more to it. A more specific reason for why Joseph was allegedly targeted.
Yeah, she claims this wasn't totally out of the blue. She mentioned alleged past issues, like mistreatment of Joseph's younger brother who had a traumatic brain injury and worked there briefly during recovery, apparently leading him to quit. And Joseph himself being forced to transfer to a faraway store years ago after refusing to work for a manager described as abusive. But then she stated what she believes is the real trigger for all this recent trouble. She alleges Joseph called out a store manager, someone named Chad, for having an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate. So that suggests a completely different motive, right?
Yeah.
Not about performance, not even just about the injury dispute, but potentially retaliation for whistleblowing. Wow. Okay. So this deep dive really has peeled back the layers on a complex and, frankly, brutal story. A long workers' comp fight made worse by alleged retaliation and what seems like systemic problems within a company. We've seen how years of loyalty can apparently count for very little, how legal processes might be used to pressure someone, and the truly devastating impact all of this can have on a person and their whole family.
It leaves you with a pretty stark thought, doesn't it? If a system that's supposed to protect injured workers can allegedly be manipulated in a way that causes this level of financial and personal destruction, what's the real cost of just business as usual for ordinary working people? And what level of responsibility does a company truly have when its actions, alleged or proven, lead to the bankruptcy of someone who gave them 2 decades of service?
Yeah. And this story, as told by the source, really comes across as a call to action. For you, the listener, Joseph Spice is urging people, if you've been mistreated at work, speak up. She asks people to think about where they spend their money, specifically mentioning King Kullen, share this story, support workers' rights initiatives. She even mentions a petition effort trying to get injured workers access to health care even while their comp claims are being fought over. And she's calling for accountability, directly naming King Kullen, Travelers Insurance, the NYS Workers' Comp Board, the U.S. Department of Labor, the NLRB, the NYS Department of Labor, OSHA, hoping her family's story can find legal help and maybe, just maybe, push the system towards actually putting families first.